Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Sunday, December 11th, 2016. Let's jump right into VR, guys. Starting on the preamble front with a question that I'm going to throw out there to you, the viewers, on a video that I'm going to be making, which is basically going to be a 101 buyer's guide for people who have no clue about VR, to purchase for people who may have VR or may not, to act as kind of a guide. So I consider most of us in the know. Maybe you've purchased stuff for people just starting out in VR or for younger kids. What kind of things would you recommend? It can be anything along those topic lines. Maybe a game you recommend for a specific age group or whatever. That would be appreciated, but by no means necessary, as always, at your leisure, if it's something you've done and can provide. Next up, in really a constant effort to kind of improve the quality on the channel here, done quite a bit of things with the audio over the last few months. It's time to address the video. Now, I've been using VSDC, which is a free editor, really since the beginning, and it's great for really basic stuff, picture-in-picture, but anyways, it's less than ideal. I don't have Vegas, but one of the things that I have been looking at, since I'm also a student, yes, I'm also a student, basically working on a second degree, a business degree to complement my comp science, because I am at that senior management level and the next step, executive. Let's just say having a business degree wouldn't hurt things. So the obvious there that I didn't even think about was that I'm going to qualify for student discounts, namely through Adobe. So I went for their subscription, their Creative Cloud service, $20 US a month for basically all their programs, including Adobe Premiere. So I'm going to teach myself that program over the next few weeks and start trying to do more and more videos on that, again, just to keep upping the quality. And of course, content-wise, goes without saying. So let's jump into news. And this was one that Nathy sent out. He is a Dutch VR YouTuber. Some of you I know are subscribed to his channel. Those of you who aren't, he basically does gameplay videos. And like this channel, he supports VR, period. It's not just about one platform over the others. And he had a tweet earlier today about how hard it is to make money currently in virtual reality from a dev. Now, the dev is Joe Raddick, and he is one of the founders of Erie Bear Games, spelt as in Lake Erie, E-E-R-I-E, and they created a game called Light Repair Team Number 4. And what's interesting about this, because it really ties into what we've been talking about in terms of exclusivity, titles that are exclusive, in terms of subsidies being handed out to people. And it's a really good look at that perspective from an indie dev, right? So literally puts you in the shoes. And he talks quite openly about the financial aspects, the budgeting costs to make the game, the break-even point, and where they ended up, which I thought was just, really open of them. That's not something they needed to talk about, but obviously felt strongly enough about it to talk about it. His NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, are ended, so he can talk about that, and so he did. So he went about calculating what it cost a couple of different ways. What he called the bad way to go about that, and you'll see that at the link, and the right way to go about that. And if you go by the right way, basically his expenses totaled about $46,000 from start to finish, launching the title, in other words. And he talks about the break-even point, and the break-even point was 8,949 units. Now, that doesn't sound like a huge number. He actually sold 2,300 units. So they made about $14,000 in revenue off of 46,000 really, well, 46,000, but 36,000 being the balance remaining. So basically they've made negative $36,500 US. Now, people are going to say, look, if their game was better, it probably would have sold more. And you know what? There's a valid argument there. Absolutely. Do gems sometimes fly under the radar? Again, another possibility. Absolutely. But regardless of all of that, the fact remains this is an average indie dev. Let's just say it's an average indie game. That's what it's selling. And part of that is because there are 1,000 titles on HTC Vive. Not all of them are going to get equal playtime. It's why videos like, what we do on this channel and other VR channels are important in that they get to showcase some of those rarer games on occasion. And perhaps with a bit more marketing on their part, because that would be another fair statement to make, they could have pushed more units, or maybe not. Again, all speculation at this point and from where I'm sitting. But again, regardless, it's an interesting look at how hard it is when you are really on the catch-22 equation, literally part of that equation. So a very open and honest look, I think, from Joe on the dev side of things. And that's going to segue perfectly into the next story, which is a news article on Upload VR titled Deafening Silence. Where is Valve's killer app VR game we've all been waiting for? Now, we've talked about how HTC, for their part, has basically opened their wallets, and they've been literally throwing money at virtual reality. A lot of that focus has been in China. Valve, you could argue, has also done their bit in terms of having more of an open platform than others may have in terms of, using Steam VR as a tool. But despite all that, one thing they haven't done, other than the Portal VR, is convert their intellectual property, whether it's Half-Life or whatever, into a killer game. Because I know right now, if they had, and they may still, wouldn't that be nice, right? We wake up a couple days before Christmas and Half-Life 3 has been worked on this entire time in VR and gets released. But let's suppose that isn't the case. Wouldn't that have made just a perfect style game to move VR systems? It's going to happen. The VR systems are selling, but they're probably going to go about it slower than had Valve directly thrown actual VR gaming at the problem. And like I said, they may still be doing that and just not talking about it and wanting to surprise us. I'm not going to hold my breath, but it is absolutely a possibility. That would just rewrite everything. It would change it. Now, with that said, there are a bunch of amazing games. I'm having a blast with Arizona Sunshine, like I said, but that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I get that, nor really would Half-Life 3. But it's probably going to talk to more people than a title like Arizona Sunshine would, or Raw Data, or, Damaged Core on the Rift, etc., etc. So it'll be interesting to see if they have something in the wings. And please, Valve, if you do, let us know within the next week. That would be something amazing to look forward to, even, and I say this, even if it's not going to make holiday release. If you're at all working on something, throw the carrot out to people. Whether that's next summer, hell, even if it's 2018, something to look forward to, something to give people hope that Valve is also doing everything they can within their power to throw at VR. Really, like their partner HTC is doing. All right, next news piece. This one is kind of interesting in that Daydream is just, it's a fairly new mobile solution in the marketplace, but they have just secured a hell of a lot of media content. So we know that Netflix VR has been available on Gear VR since September 2015. So it's been available for a while. Daydream has just finished signing up services that have to date not appeared on any of the tethered solutions. HBO VR to start. If they sell well, they will have a very comfortable majority of media apps available. Now, you could say they would benefit from having that same thing on the gaming side, and that's a little bit anemic at the moment. Very true, that would be an absolutely valid statement. But with regards to the media side, and I tell you, there's a time and place for Netflix viewing on an HMD. It's honestly the majority of what I do on the Gear VR. Yes, there are games, but time being time, sometimes I just want to chillax, 30 minutes before my head hits the pillow, and it'll be with some Trailer Park Boys, Netflix, or Planet Earth with Attenborough, something like that. And it's been fantastic for that. But this article points out correctly, that's not for everyone. Some people want communal viewing with a spouse, partner, friend, whatever, and that is sadly lacking in most of these media solutions. There's workarounds, there are options available, but Netflix doesn't have anything built in. HBO, which kind of follows Netflix's MO in terms of creating that home theater feel when you're watching stuff, also doesn't have a social solution. So it'll be neat to see where that goes in 2017 and beyond. Are they going to be, that would be my guess, start integrating social components into these? Because I think that's the one glaring omission to date, to make it something that, two people would want to use in the same room. Next up, article from VentureBeat that says, despite slow 2016, VR still forecast to hit 14 billion in consumer software sales by 2020. And this comes direct from SuperData. They of the data research team that scaled back some of their numbers, saying that they were originally a little too optimistic and didn't factor in some market happenstances that occurred along the way. They themselves are saying everything is still on target for that figure. Of course, we need a lot of things to click. We're going to have to continue the adoption rate. We're going to get people to buy in. And we're going to keep requiring more and better experiences, games, etc. So hopefully that's the case. And hopefully we get into the billions by 2020. I'm sure most of you would agree we want VR to still sure as hell be around in 2020. Next up, this one, very cool. Once in a while, I'm lucky when I get an article that is as much fun to look into. You know what I mean? It's not just informative. It actually has a, wow, that's pretty cool aspect to it. This was one of those. Comes from Upload VR, and it's about Quill, which is the touch drawing application. Quill's Infinite Canvas. And as the article says, Quill's Infinite Canvas just opened a door to a new art form, says Worlds in Worlds creator. And there's a really cool video. If you guys are familiar with Russian dolls, also known as Matryoshka dolls, they're basically, you got the wooden grandfather, and you open that, and there's a grandmother inside, and then father, mother, all the way to little babies, all hidden inside one. 1892, when I was doing my research, is when they first went to market in Russia, borrowed off a Japanese Buddhist idea in the 1880s. But that concept of a world within a world within a world is what is done in this video, and it is just freaking amazing. And it ends up in all places in a rabbit hole. So the first shot, you're in space, you're zooming into a planet with an alien couple in a car, passenger alien holding a snow globe. You go right into that world, and then another scene within a scene. Like I say, eventually you see a rabbit and the rabbit's rabbit hole, and that's where it ends. Just very mind-bending, very cool. It'll be amazing to see art with that, and a whole new way of exploring, not just looking at a 2D piece of art, but literally diving into a piece of art. Very cool. Check that video out. It's not terribly long. I think it's about 1 minute and 2 seconds. All right, guys, that is it for the news. Off for probably a bit more Arizona sunshine and another game or two. So again, if you have some ideas on VR buying 101 guide, let me know in the comments below. That would be appreciated. As always, guys, cheers Have a kick-ass week. Catch you on the VR flip side.